I went ahead and made this video in case anybody else might want to follow this, because I see there's a lot of interest out there in bending rebar and lots of videos, some good, not so good. And it just has the whole gambit. But this has worked for me and worked for me very well. I needed to make 72 hoops. I had a couple weeks of delay because I had to order the sonotubes, and I thought, well, I'll just give this a whirl. And this is what I needed. I needed 8 of these cages, and I needed 72 of the hoops. And what I ended up making this out of, this is all 3/8 inch and 1/2 inch of the verticals. There's also some diagonals I added here just to keep it from falling over, because no matter how tight you want to try to get these rebar ties, they're not going to be that tight. This is non-weldable rebar. I kind of wish I could have got the weldable stuff. It might have made it easier, but this is working for me. Now, what I did, I went out and I saw online a lot of people were using brake rotors as the mandrel to bend things around. I thought manliness and all that, and so I guesstimated my 13 or 14 inches, my rotor size here, and I did go out and find this size I wanted. It also has a double. There's a little recess. You'll see it as I start the video. But when I was out there, I thought, well, geez, this little one here would fit right inside this and act as a bearing. So once I got home, kind of knocked the rust off a little bit. It's probably got an 1/8 inch or so of play, and that's perfectly fine for my purpose. It's also, it was low enough that these bolts don't interfere. So, and this little sacrificial bearing here, that just bolts into a piece of plywood. I got this table at an auction, and I don't know why the middle was cut out, but I filled it full of plywood. I built this little flat stock, drilled a hole in there, and actually that used that to capture the rod. And you can tell here. Let me start that. No, stop it here. There's a double-sided here on this rotor. There we go. You want that because that's that recess for the rebar to sit in there. Because some rotors just have a straight single. I really wanted that double. So this is the bending of it. I have this little cheater bar. I use the bolts. That's what the bolts are for. It actually spins pretty easy. And I've tried different methods, but this seems to work the best. I can only do a full rotation, but I got to stop halfway, keep the tension on, otherwise it'll pop off. And I tried to bend everything consistently. And when I get it to the end, I let it sit for 4 or 5 seconds. I understand that's called dwell, and it'll just help a little bit on the rebound. And what I found works, I put the other end, try to keep it on the same plane, rebend it. And like I said, I was a little disappointed because it came out closer to 20 inches instead of the 18 inches some of my previous pieces had. But I think that might have been schedule 40 rebar. I know this is schedule 60, and it just had more rebound than I really wanted. I probably could have gone back and see if I could find some smaller rotors and that would all nestle together, but I had this thing working, and I thought, well, I'll go ahead and see how I can just use this and process it. So once I'm done with that first bend, I'll take it to my vise. I'll just stick it in the edge of the vise, and this is about the only hand cranking I have to really do on these things. And I just kind of put a little bit of extra twist in the bottom to kind of match the curvature. You get kind of, after 72, you get kind of good at this stuff. So once that's done, I'll go ahead and take it back to my kind of sizing bend. Now this is my finished jig. I want it for the size. And this bar clamp is actually clamped into the other end of the table there. You can't see it. I wanted it stable, and I wouldn't want to fight this thing falling over all the time. So what I do, I crank it down to, I don't know, until it's about a foot or so of overlap. Put a piece of just vice grips to hold it in place. Open it back up, try to put it right in the middle. Some of these work so slick, and some of them you're kind of fighting a little bit. Then I'll put another clamp sideways because I'm clamping both ways, and I'm just going to take it down to close to that 13.5, 14-inch circle. Now you might have to kind of adjust this a little bit. I usually put the clamp a little bit towards the top because it will kind of drift down as the circle gets smaller. And I do try to keep the overlap as equal as I can because I'm going for that consistency of bend. I thought I might have to kind of, when I'm done bending it all, size them, make sure I put this size in one pile. I haven't. They're all within 1/4 of an inch. So I was really happy. Now usually I'll let it sit a little bit longer here. I'll go back and re-bend that straighter bar, the first bend. But for this video, I just went ahead and took it off. Now there's my sizing bend, and this one's actually a little bit overbent. Now it's got a little bit more bend that needs. I'm not going to show you that, but I just took that back to the vise and put a little bit of a crank on that one little corner there. Once that's done, I will take it back, put it back on the sizing wheel, so to speak. Now there's a little hole. I cut a notch in here. What I'll do, I'll go ahead and spin that around to the notch, because that's the place where I put my tie into it once it's all cranked up. Then I'll take that back to the clamp again. I'll put on the clamp. I do have a couple additional clamps just to kind of size it down, hold it in place. If it does have a little spring to it, I'll put some vice grips on it. And once it's in this position, I'll go ahead and use my trusty drill, cordless drill. I'm using a cordless drill to twist these things. You're twisting hundreds and hundreds of these, probably maybe 600 to 700 of these wire ties I've had to use so far. And that little hand crank thing, oh man, that seems like a free ticket to repetitive stress injury. So I decided not to go that way. I just cut the end of it off, took it out, took out my anvil, had my way with it, straightened it out, and I've never regretted it. Once I determined that it's actually okay, and I even stopped measuring these because they were just all coming out just great. You know, again, I'm trying to be a little bit under 18. 18 would be just the maximum for putting it in my sonotubes. So once I get it sized, I'll go ahead and add another band to it. This is a double clamp. The cordless drill is nice because it gives me I can really pull it then, and I think it really helps to twist it down. Timeline is probably 5 minutes to 10 minutes per hoop. That's what it took me. You get kind of a routine going, but so to assemble this. Now again, if this is just a one-off, I probably wouldn't have gone down this road. But what I did, I drew my circle on a piece of scrap plywood I had here, used a compass, just kind of separate it in 6 because I got 6 verticals. Okay. I went ahead and mounted this on a wall. There's a hinge right here. That way when I'm done assembling the cage, I can just pop that right up and take the whole cage off. On the bottom, that other part I had, I went ahead and used a plumb bob just to make sure all the holes were vertical and lined up. Put some big weights on this. I did go ahead and put some tape on here just in case it ever got moved. Never happened. Now what I do, I take 6 rings, 6 of these hoops, and I stagger the opening or stagger the overlaps. I don't want them all lined up. And so once I got the 6 in place down here, I'll put in 3 of my bars. That works really well. I'll go ahead and raise all 6 up, put a clamp on it, hold them out of the way. Then I'll go ahead and put the rest of the bars in. There are holes in the bottom, of course, so that the vertical is just going to drop into. I have spacers on the bottom. I put the spacers down there and I start twisting the wires on. Each one double tied. I have a smaller spacer at the top because they have a lot less gap. I went ahead and built these diagonals too. I went ahead and just bent them to hold them because no matter how tight this thing is with your wire ties, it's still going to wiggle back and forth. However, putting these on really stabilized it a lot. I can't see any structural reason why they shouldn't be on there. A lot of people using commercial ones use diagonals on these larger pores. So once that is done, and this is, oh wait, by the way, this is how I bent those diagonals. I just have a little hand crank and I bend them cold. I found out I can bend the 3/8 and I can also bend the 1/2 inch with this without a problem. Once I get it all assembled, mostly assembled, I haven't put the top or bottom or a couple of the top rings on. I'll go ahead and just put my little bungee cord on that, lift it up out of the way, and then I can just start again. Here's 8 of them all done, and it was not as hard as I thought, and I got them exactly as I wanted. Now some of these have a lot less space than others. Now I don't have all of these having a 12-inch overlap, but of course this is not holding up a bridge either. Most of my stresses are going to come lateral. I'm going to have some uplift and downlift, but these are well engineered. And also, I thought about, you're not supposed to bend or rebend rebar. It's pretty brittle stuff, especially if you have a tight bend. It's probably going to break. But yeah, if I lose a few percent because I am rebending the hoops, well, I just put a couple more hoops on. I mean, the few percent that I'm gonna lose from rebending it, an extra hoop or two will certainly make up for that. So anyway, this was my solution. It worked well. I'm still waiting for my sonotubes to come in, but when they do, I'll call my contractor up with his big 24-inch auger and we'll get to work. So anyway, hope this helps.